It's only occurred to me in this last election cycle that I am American. I am. I mean, I became an American citizen 10 years ago now, when I was 17. But I haven't always felt it. I haven't always felt that way. And so I've had to ask myself, well, I believe that I'm American. I feel completely invested in what's happening in this country, and I feel honored to be a part of that. But why do I still hold in my mind this idea of American as something that's outside of myself, and indeed outside of everybody I know, including some people who are only American, who don't have any immigrant in them at all, but for the Puritans. And so I've had to ask, what is an American? Or what, rather, I mean, that's an interesting question too, but what is this Americanness that I am holding in my mind? I mean, I know everyone has their own definition of Americanness, and that's the beauty of the identity. But what is the one that I imagine, and why do I keep excluding myself from it?
I don't think we would talk about it as much if it were positive, because then that's just your privilege. That's why I think white people in this society don't talk about the way they're treated or perceived, because it's a privilege. You're treated better. There's nothing to complain about. You take it for granted. Sometimes black people treat white people better. It's just, so I definitely think that there's a value attached, and that unfortunately it's not a positive one. But then, like I said, also, sometimes it's difficult to tease out. You're not sure. Sometimes you might just meet somebody who happens to be rude or think they're better than everybody else, whatever your race, but you don't have the privilege of being able to separate those things when you're a person of color, because it's so ingrained in you, or it's you're not allowed to forget it much, or maybe you don't allow yourself to forget it, but either way, it's there, it's present, and it's real.
All of my siblings and my father, we've all been arrested. And I'd say 3 of the 5 cases were unjustifiable. But I'm just noticing how I'm sure none of my white relatives have been in jail. And I know many of my black relatives have been in jail.
It was a shock for me how everybody Asian was lumped into, like, you are all Asian. And then suddenly Indians became South Asians. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, oh, so I'm South Asian? But, I couldn't really, because that's a phrase I'd never heard until I moved to New York. So I was kind of shocked how all these races were lumped together. And I was also shocked how women were lumped together with all these races. People of color and women. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, why? And it's like almost ashamed to ask, like, why is it that I didn't get that? And then I'm like, gee, these people, they really think this way. It's male and white, and then it's everybody else. And I was like, wow. that was really something when I finally, like that. Like, I just finally realized that was how people thought in this country.
As a young kid, I spoke very, very, let's say, ghetto. I really did. I spoke, and it still comes out naturally when I'm upset or when I'm really happy. I'll be like, yo, what up, son? That's just how I am. I remember distinctly going into high school. I went to Stuyvesant High School, which is here in New York, and it's predominantly white and Asian. And it was a very shocking experience for me to go to Stuyvesant, to be around my own kind. It was actually very strange. I was like, oh, I'm not used to that. But I remember going, the first day I remember this, going to high school, I had said to myself, I'm not going to speak ghetto. I said, I need to speak English. I need to speak just as good as everybody else here because this is Stuyvesant. And honestly, it became a regular part of my life where now I speak very clear American English. And I was actually an English major in college too, so that furthered it.
I want to start with this Barack Obama piece because I'm really offended that people in this country keep trying to remind each other that Barack Obama is not a Muslim. What if he was? So what? That's great. I don't have a problem voting for a Muslim to be the president of this country. I thought there was a concept of separation of church and state in this country, so to me it's not important what their religion is, and I'm not prejudiced against people based on their religion. So I find it insulting that people are making Muslim into a dirty word and trying to remind everyone that that's not him, as if somehow Muslim equates to terrorist, which it doesn't. And I think we as people need to take a stand, especially in America, against this. I think that there's a tremendous amount of hate getting thrown towards Muslim people and also towards Arab people ever since 9/11, and I think it's really important to stand up against that. And as a Jewish person, I think it's that much more important because there's this whole tradition that's been forced upon both peoples, that somehow we should be separated, that there's this never-ending hate between Jews and Arabs or between Jews and Muslims, and in my life that's just not true.
It's funny because, you know, the name Barack Obama, you know, if someone like him was around when I was a young adult or a young kid, you know, I think I would have felt a lot more comfortable, you know, standing up and saying, my name is pronounced Rahman, or, you know, and being proud of my name being Arabic and having an origin, you know, in Africa.
How you're able to present the nuances of a culture, you need to understand it before you can present it and spit it back out. Otherwise, it's gonna feel like a "Y'all Man Jamaica" t-shirt, like that you buy at the airport. Like, don't do that to yourself. Like, go there and walk around and just go ask some questions, man. Like, don't be scared. Like, go and really, you know, be ignorant in the beginning. Like all of us are. Like, wow, what the hell is he saying? You know, so having an opportunity to shoot like Beanie Man's, one of his albums, and then Capleton, More Fire, and going to Jamaica and really feeling comfortable. I mean, it's a set of interests that I had that are similar. Like, I know the rules of cricket. I played soccer all my life, football, you know, however you want to say. But, you know, it's like these were interests. I've always had a real appreciation for it being a culture based on respect. And I think that that's kind of how I approach. It's like kind of humble respect. It's peaceful, even though it can elevate quickly and the ratchet can come out and you might be done. But it's based on respect. If you give it, you're gonna get it.
I'm not angry. I'm exhausted. What do you mean? I'm exhausted. Yeah, no. Yes, maybe I have tried to tone it down, or I've tried to contain my reaction because when I am impatient. No, because white people can't tell the difference between black people's impatience and their anger and their wrath and their fatigue and their frustration and their exhaustion. It all looks like anger to them.
Growing up, I experienced racism, prejudice from white and black. You know, just living in America, it's tough. You're affected, and you don't really know it until you leave the country, and you kind of feel this thing just melting off of you, because not everyone thinks that way. I mean, this country is built on free labor. I mean, if that was not the case, this country would never be what it is today. And you know, and there's a mindset that's been in place so that structure still can continue. And you know, when they say that the chains are psychological, it's true. There's an elephant, and you put a chain around an elephant's leg when it's really little, and that chain will still keep that elephant when it's big, even though the elephant could just run off and take everything with it. But you know, it's the same thing that's happening in America.